Admiral Vexor had seen many strange things in his 40 years of service to the Galactic Council. He had mapped dying stars, catalogued peaceful civilizations, and navigated through asteroid fields that would have crushed lesser ships. But nothing in his long career had prepared him for what appeared on his navigation screen that morning. The bridge of the Harmonious Accord hummed with its usual quiet efficiency. Officers moved between stations, checking readings and updating star charts. It was supposed to be another routine survey mission in the outer reaches of the Orion Arm. Vexor settled into his command chair, his 6 legs folding beneath him comfortably as he reviewed the day's objectives. "Admiral, we have completed the scan of System J7742, announced Science Officer Kilrin from his station. The young officer's antennae twitched with what seemed like nervousness. "But sir, there is something very unusual about the third planet." Vexor clicked his mandibles in acknowledgement and moved to the science station. His compound eyes focused on the holographic display that materialized before them. At first, everything seemed normal. A yellow star, slightly smaller than average. Several planets in stable orbits. Gas giants in the outer system. Rocky planets closer to the sun. Standard configuration. Then he saw the classification code and his entire body went rigid. Class 12 Death World. The designation flashed in angry red letters across the display. Class 12 was the highest danger rating in the Galactic Council's planetary classification system. It meant a world so hostile, so fundamentally deadly, that even brief exposure would kill most known species. Crushing gravity. Corrosive atmosphere. Extreme temperatures. Deadly radiation. Aggressive microbial life. These worlds were marked on charts as warnings, places where no one should ever attempt to land. "There must be an error in the system," Vexor said, though his voice carried less certainty than his words suggested. "Run the diagnostic again." Kilrin's fingers danced across his console. "I have run it 3 times already, sir. The readings are consistent. The planet designated as Earth has gravity of 9.8 meters per second squared. Atmospheric oxygen content of 21%. Temperature variations from -89 to +56 degrees. Active volcanic systems. Severe weather patterns including electrical storms and rotating wind columns that can reach speeds of—" "Enough," Vexor interrupted. He understood the picture well enough. This world called Earth would crush him under its gravity. The oxygen would corrode his breathing apparatus within hours. The temperature swings alone would send his species into fatal shock. Note it in the charts as uninhabitable and move on to the next system. "Sir," Kilrin's voice was barely a whisper now. "That is not all." Vexor turned back to the display. Kilrin highlighted a series of new readings, and what the Admiral saw made his blood run cold. Energy signatures. Artificial structures. Electromagnetic transmissions. And most impossible of all, faster-than-light drive signatures in orbit around the planet. Someone lived there. Someone had not only survived on that nightmare world but had built a civilization. They had developed technology. They had achieved spaceflight. "This is impossible," Vexor breathed. His mind raced through everything he knew about xenobiology and evolution. Every species in the Galactic Council came from what humans would call garden worlds. Comfortable temperatures. Reasonable gravity. Stable climates. Even the hardiest Council species came from worlds rated no higher than Class 4 on the danger scale. Life could exist on death worlds. Simple bacteria. Perhaps some hardy fungi. But complex life? Tool users? Spacefaring civilizations? The idea violated everything the Council understood about how intelligence evolved. Survival on such worlds required such extreme specialization that species never developed the flexibility needed for higher thought. Yet the evidence was undeniable. The scans showed massive cities across multiple continents. Satellites in orbit. Space stations. And those FTL signatures meant these creatures had spread beyond their home world to nearby systems. "How many of them are there?" Vexor asked quietly. Kilrin consulted his readings. "Preliminary estimates suggest 8 billion individuals on the home world alone, sir. And we are detecting colonies on their moon, several orbital habitats, and outposts in at least 3 other systems. 8 billion apex predators. Because that is what they had to be. Nothing survived on a Class 12 death world without being at the absolute top of the food chain." "Weapons?" Vexor asked, though he dreaded the answer. "Extensive, sir. Chemical explosives. Kinetic weapons. Electromagnetic pulse devices. Nuclear fission and fusion technology. And sir, some of their ships appear to be armed." Vexor made a decision. "Engage full stealth protocols. I want us invisible to every sensor these creatures might possess. We will observe from maximum safe distance. No transmissions. No active scans that might give away our position. We need to understand what we are dealing with before we report this to the council. His crew moved to comply, fear evident in their movements. Vexor did not blame them. Somewhere out there, creatures that could survive conditions that would kill any council species in minutes had built starships and reached for the stars. The real question was what they would do when they realized they were not alone in the galaxy. For 3 days, the crew of the Harmonious Accord watched the humans in absolute horror. Vexor had ordered observation drones deployed to multiple human settlements. The tiny devices, invisible to human sensors, transmitted constant footage back to the ship. What the crew witnessed challenged everything they thought they knew about life in the universe. "Admiral, you need to see this," Kilran called out, his voice shaking. The science officer had barely left his station in 72 hours, obsessed with cataloging every impossible thing these humans did. Vexor approached the display. It showed the interior of what appeared to be a human dwelling. A female human sat at a table, holding a steaming cup. She brought it to her lips and drank. "What am I looking at?" Vexor asked. Kilran pulled up a chemical analysis. "That liquid is called coffee. It contains a compound called caffeine, which is a neurotoxin. It stimulates their nervous system and increases their heart rate. They drink it every morning. Multiple times per day. For pleasure." Vexor stared at the screen. "They poison themselves voluntarily?" "It gets worse, sir." Kilran switched to another feed. A human male was eating something red. His face turned pink and water leaked from his eyes, yet he continued eating with apparent enjoyment. "These are called chili peppers. They contain capsaicin, a chemical that triggers pain receptors. Humans cultivate these plants specifically to cause themselves discomfort. They call it spicy food and consider it a delicacy." Dr. Yenna joined them at the console. The medical officer looked exhausted, her scales had lost their usual shimmer. "I have been reviewing their entertainment and recreational activities. Admiral, these creatures deliberately harm themselves for fun." She brought up footage of humans engaged in various sports. In one, they threw a ball and ran while others tried to tackle them to the ground. In another, they punched each other while crowds cheered. In yet another, they lifted metal weights so heavy that their faces contorted with effort and their muscles trembled. "They call it exercise," Yenna explained weakly. "They believe if they do not regularly push their bodies to the point of pain and exhaustion, they will become unhealthy. Their biology requires constant stress to maintain peak function." Vexor watched a human running on a machine that went nowhere, sweat pouring from their body, breathing hard. The human had a smile on their face. They were enjoying this torture. "Show me their planet's natural environment," Vexor ordered. The displays filled with images of Earth's wildlife. Vexor felt his legs weaken beneath him. He saw creatures with fangs longer than his arm. Reptiles whose bite delivered venom that could drop prey in seconds. Insects that could kill with a single sting. Ocean predators with rows of serrated teeth. Land predators that hunted in coordinated packs. "This one is called a hippopotamus," Kilran said, highlighting a massive gray creature. "One of the most dangerous animals on their planet. It kills hundreds of humans every year." He paused. "Humans keep them in zoos so their children can look at them. And this," Yenna added, showing an image of a human child sleeping next to a large furry creature with sharp teeth, "is a dog. They are descended from wolves, pack hunters that humans domesticated thousands of years ago. Humans invite these predators into their homes. They sleep beside them. They trust them with their offspring." Vexor watched more footage. Humans swimming in oceans filled with creatures that could eat them. Humans climbing mountains where one wrong step meant death. Humans living in regions where the temperature would freeze Vexor solid or boil him alive, and they simply wore different clothing and continued their lives. "I have analyzed their evolutionary biology," Yenna continued. "Humans are persistence hunters. On their world, prey animals are faster. They have better camouflage, better hearing, better smell. So humans evolved a different strategy. They chase their prey for hours, days even. They run until the prey animal collapses from exhaustion and then they kill it. No other predator on Earth hunts this way. Only humans." Kilran brought up medical data. "Their healing capabilities are remarkable. Broken bones fuse back together. Damaged tissue regenerates. Their immune system is so aggressive it can fight off diseases that would kill most council species in hours. Sometimes their immune systems are too aggressive and attack their own bodies, and yet many humans live full lives even with these conditions. Their pain tolerance is beyond measure," Yenna added. "I have records of humans walking on broken limbs to reach help. Humans surviving in conditions that should cause death within minutes. Humans giving birth, which causes extreme pain, and then choosing to do it again. Vexor absorbed all this information in silence. He watched the screens showing humans going about their daily lives. They laughed with each other. They cared for their young with obvious tenderness. They created art and music. They helped each other. These were not monsters. These were people who simply did not realize how extraordinary they were. They think this is normal, Vexor said quietly. They have no idea that every other species in the galaxy would consider their daily routine a nightmare of survival. What do we do, Admiral? Kilran asked. Before Vexor could answer, an alarm blared across the bridge. The tactical officer shouted from his station. Sir, we have been detected. A human vessel is approaching our position. The bridge erupted into panic. Officers scattered to their stations as warning lights flashed across every console. Vexor felt his heart racing as he stared at the tactical display. A human ship, larger than their observation vessel, was moving directly toward them. How did they find us? Vexor demanded. Our stealth systems are the best in the Council fleet. The tactical officer's voice trembled as he replied. I do not know, sir. Their scanning technology should not be able to penetrate our cloaking field. But they are heading straight for us. No deviation in course. Kilran frantically checked his instruments. Admiral, they are hailing us. Audio transmission incoming. A moment of heavy silence filled the bridge. Every member of the crew looked to Vexor, waiting for orders. His mind raced through options. They could run, but if the humans could detect them once, they could do it again. They could stay silent and hope the humans would pass by. Or they could do something that terrified him more than anything else. They could answer. Put it through, Vexor said, his voice barely steady. A cheerful human voice filled the bridge, speaking in their own language. The translation software worked quickly, converting the words into something the crew could understand. Unidentified vessel, this is Captain James Howard of the human colony ship Endeavor. We detected some unusual readings in this sector and wanted to make sure everything was okay. We mean you no harm. Would you like to talk? Dr. Yenna made a small sound of distress. They detected unusual readings? Our stealth field is supposed to be completely invisible. What do we do? Kilran whispered urgently. If we run, they might think we are hostile. If we stay silent, they might investigate further. Vexor made his decision. Open a channel. Visual and audio. Sir, are you certain? The communications officer asked, his antennae flat against his head in fear. If they wanted to destroy us, we would already be dead, Vexor replied. These are the creatures who keep wolves as pets. Perhaps they extend that strange compassion to aliens as well. The channel opened. Vexor found himself looking at a human male sitting in a command chair not unlike his own. Captain James Howard had light-colored hair on his head and facial features that the translation database suggested indicated friendliness. Behind him, other humans moved about their bridge, and Vexor noticed several of them pointing at the screen with obvious excitement. Hello, James said, his mouth stretching wide in what the database identified as a smile. This is amazing. First contact. I cannot believe we are actually making first contact. My name is James Howard. What is your name? The casual friendliness of the greeting threw Vexor completely off balance. He had expected aggression or at least suspicion. Instead, this apex predator from a death world was treating this like a pleasant social meeting. I am Admiral Vexor of the Galactic Council vessel Harmonious Accord, he managed to say. James leaned forward in his chair, his smile growing even wider. Galactic Council? That is incredible. How many species are in the Council? Where are you from? Oh, I have about 1,000 questions, but I do not want to overwhelm you. Listen, would you like to come aboard our ship? We can talk more comfortably. I promise we will be respectful of any cultural or biological needs you have. Every instinct in Vexor's body screamed at him to refuse. Board a ship full of Deathworlders? Walk voluntarily into their den? But he looked at James's open expression, at the excited faces of the other humans in the background, and realized something important. These creatures had found them easily. If they meant harm, they did not need to invite Vexor aboard. They could simply attack. I will come alone, Vexor said. My crew will remain here. Absolutely understood, James replied immediately. Whatever makes you comfortable. We will send coordinates for our docking port. An hour later, Vexor found himself walking through the corridors of a human ship. The gravity was crushing. Each step felt like he was moving through thick liquid. The oxygen levels made his breathing apparatus work overtime to filter out the corrosive gas. Yet the humans around him moved with easy grace, unbothered by conditions that were slowly killing him. James met him at the airlock with several other humans. A female with dark hair stepped forward, holding a steaming cup. "Admiral Vexer, welcome aboard. Would you like some coffee? It is fresh." Vexer stared at the cup of poison she was offering him as a gesture of hospitality. "I cannot consume that beverage. It contains toxins that would harm my biology." The female, whose name tag read Lieutenant Emma Blake, looked genuinely confused. "Toxins? It is just coffee." She glanced at the cup, then back at Vexer. "Oh no, did we mess up already? I'm so sorry. We do not know anything about your species. What can we offer you instead?" Another human, this one male with markings on his uniform that suggested scientific training, practically bounced with excitement. "This is fascinating. Tell us everything about your species. What is your homeworld like? What do you eat? How do you communicate? Do you have families?" Vexer felt overwhelmed by their enthusiasm. These were creatures who drank neurotoxins, lived on a planet that would kill him in hours, and evolved from persistence hunters who could chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Yet they were treating him like an honored guest, concerned about his comfort, eager to learn about him. "Perhaps we should start with simpler questions," James suggested gently, noticing Vexer's discomfort. "Admiral, you mentioned a galactic council. We had no idea we had neighbors out here. Can you tell us about them?" Vexer settled into a chair that the humans had quickly modified to accommodate his different body structure. He looked at their eager, friendly faces. These Deathworlders had no idea how terrifying they were. They saw themselves as ordinary, average, just another species taking their first steps into the galaxy. "Your planet?" Vexer began carefully. "You call it Earth, yes?" "That is right," James confirmed. "Beautiful place. Sure, it gets a little hot in summer and a little cold in winter, but it is home." "Why do you ask?" "A little hot. A little cold." This creature described temperature variations that would kill most council species as merely a little inconvenient. Vexer realized that explaining to humans that they were exceptional was going to be far more difficult than he had imagined. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going for 6 hours, and the chaos showed no signs of stopping. Vexer stood at the center of the Grand Chamber on Centrum Prime, surrounded by holographic projections of council members from across the galaxy. Every species had sent their representatives, and every single one of them was terrified. "You brought them here?" Counselor Threx demanded, his gaseous form pulsing with agitation inside his containment suit. "You invited Deathworlders to our capital world?" "They are peaceful," Vexer insisted, though his own voice betrayed his nervousness. "I have spent time with them. They seek only friendship and knowledge." A chorus of objections filled the chamber. Counselor Mora, whose species resembled large floating jellyfish, dimmed her bioluminescent body in distress. "Peaceful? You said yourself they consume poisons for pleasure. They keep predators as companions. They evolved to hunt prey to exhaustion." "Their planet should be quarantined," suggested Counselor Brent, a crystalline being whose voice chimed like breaking glass. "We should establish a defensive perimeter. No ships in or out." "They already have colonies in 3 systems," Vexer reminded them. "They have faster-than-light travel. We cannot contain them, and attempting to do so would likely be seen as an act of hostility." Threx swirled anxiously in his container. "Then what do you propose, Admiral? That we simply welcome apex predators into the Council as if they are no different from the rest of us? They could destroy our entire civilization." "They could," Vexer agreed quietly. "But I do not believe they will. In all my observations and interactions, they have shown curiosity, compassion, and respect. Yes, they are dangerous. But so is a storm, and we do not declare war on weather." The debate raged on, with some council members suggesting immediate military preparations while others advocated for cautious diplomacy. Finally, the High Chancellor called for order. "We will proceed with formal first contact. The human delegation will arrive tomorrow. We will observe them, assess their intentions, and make our decision based on evidence rather than fear." The vote passed, though barely. The next day, Captain James Howard arrived at Centrum Prime with a small delegation. Vexer watched from the observation gallery as the humans entered the council chambers for the first time. They walked with obvious wonder in their eyes, looking at each species with genuine fascination rather than judgment. Lieutenant Emma Blake helped an elderly Peking delegate who was struggling to reach his elevated seat. She lifted him gently, her Deathworlder strength making the task effortless, and carefully placed him in position. The Peking stared at her in shock, but Emma simply smiled and moved on. Dr. Robert Greene, the human scientist, approached each species with respectful questions about their biology and culture. He took careful notes, asked permission before recording anything, and thanked everyone for their time. Lieutenant Thomas Wright stood quietly near the back, his eyes constantly scanning the room. Vexer recognized the behavior from his observations. The human was assessing threats, watching for danger. It was instinctive for their species. But when a small child from the Vreen delegation wandered too close to the edge of a platform, Thomas moved smoothly to guide the child back to safety, his movements gentle despite his obvious strength. The formal presentations began. James stood before the assembled council and spoke clearly. "We come in peace and friendship. We know we are new to this galactic community and we have much to learn. We hope you will teach us your ways, share your cultures, and accept us as partners in building a better future for all species." It was a good speech. Carefully prepared, diplomatically worded. The council members seemed to relax slightly. Then the ceiling made a terrible groaning sound. Vexer looked up in horror as a support beam cracked. The ancient structure, built thousands of years ago, had finally reached its breaking point. The massive metal beam, weighing several tons, broke free and plummeted directly toward a cluster of delegates below. Vexer opened his mouth to scream a warning, but the sound died in his throat. Lieutenant Thomas Wright moved faster than Vexer's eyes could follow. One moment he was standing at the back of the room. The next moment he was under the falling beam, his hands raised above his head. The beam struck his palms with a sound like thunder. Thomas caught it. His legs bent under the weight. His face contorted with effort. The muscles in his arms and shoulders bulged visibly. But he held the beam, keeping it from crushing the delegates beneath. "Get them out!" Thomas shouted, his voice strained but controlled. Other humans rushed forward. Emma and James pulled the shocked delegates to safety while Robert called for structural support. Security drones arrived within seconds, deploying magnetic clamps to secure the beam. Only then did Thomas carefully lower it and step back. He looked around at the staring faces and seemed confused by their expressions. "Is everyone okay?" he asked, breathing hard but otherwise appearing unharmed. Counselor Threx floated closer, his voice barely a whisper. "You saved us. You could have been killed." Thomas looked even more confused. "Well, yes. You were in danger. What else would I do?" The council chamber was completely silent. Vexer watched understanding dawn on face after face. The humans had demonstrated their incredible physical capabilities in the most dramatic way possible. Thomas had caught multiple tons of falling metal with his bare hands, held it steady, and walked away with nothing more than some heavy breathing. But more importantly, they had seen why he did it. Not to show off. Not to intimidate. Simply because people were in danger and he could help. Counselor Mora's bioluminescence brightened. "The Deathworlder saved us," she said softly. "The creature we feared most in this room just saved our lives." James stepped forward, his expression serious. "We understand that we are different. Our world made us strong because it had to. But that strength is not a threat to you. We want to use it to help, to protect, to build. That is what strength is for." Vexer felt something shift in the chamber. The fear was still there, but it was now mixed with something else. Hope, perhaps. Or the beginning of trust. The High Chancellor spoke. "This council will adjourn for deliberation. The human delegation will remain as our guests while we consider what we have witnessed today." As the council members filed out, Vexer noticed that many of them approached the humans to offer thanks. Thomas looked embarrassed by the attention, repeatedly insisting that anyone would have done the same thing. That was the moment Vexer knew for certain. The humans truly did not understand how exceptional they were. And perhaps that humility, combined with their terrifying capabilities, was exactly what the galaxy needed. 3 weeks after the incident in the council chambers, the Krell Empire launched their attack. They came without warning, their warships tearing through the outer defense lines like they were made of paper. Within 2 days they had conquered 3 council border worlds and were advancing deeper into protected space. The emergency council session was very different from the last one. There was no debate this time. Only fear. "Our defenses cannot hold them," the High Chancellor announced, his voice hollow. "The Krell are a warrior species. They have been preparing for this invasion for decades. Our peacekeeping forces are not equipped for this level of aggression." Vexer listened to the reports with growing dread. The Krell were not Deathworlders, but they came from a harsh world that had made them tough and aggressive. More importantly, they had spent centuries building a military culture while the council species had focused on science, trade, and diplomacy. "We need warriors," Counselor Threx said quietly. "But we have no warriors. We are scientists, diplomats, Merchants. We have never needed an army before. Vexor felt every eye in the chamber turn toward him. He knew what they were thinking before anyone said it. I know where to find warriors, Vexor said slowly. Warriors who choose when to fight. Warriors who understand the difference between strength and cruelty. The vote was unanimous. Captain James Howard received the message while his ship was resupplying at a human colony. Vexor delivered the request personally, traveling to meet the humans in their own territory. The council needs help, Vexor explained. We are being invaded. Our people are dying. We have no one else to turn to. James looked at his crew. Emma, Thomas, and Robert all nodded without hesitation. Of course we will help, James said simply. That is what friends do. Within 6 hours, a human fleet arrived at the conflict zone. 12 ships, including military vessels that humanity had built for their own defense. Vexor watched from his flagship as the human forces took up position between the Krell advance and the Council worlds. The Krell commander sent a transmission, laughing at the small human fleet. Surrender or be destroyed, the message said. You cannot stop us. James replied with calm confidence. We are here to protect our friends. Leave now or you will regret it. The Krell attacked. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. The humans fought like nothing the Krell had ever encountered. Their tactics were unpredictable. Their responses were creative. When the Krell tried to surround them, the humans scattered and attacked from unexpected angles. When the Krell used their standard battle formations, the humans adapted and turned those formations into weaknesses. But what shocked the Krell most was the humans' refusal to give up. A human ship would take damage that should have forced retreat, and instead it would continue fighting. Human crews would work for days without rest, repairing systems and maintaining combat readiness through sheer determination. Lieutenant Thomas Wright led a boarding party onto a Krell ship that had disabled its self-destruct to take hostages. The Krell warriors were larger than humans, heavily armed, and fighting on their own territory. It should have been a massacre. Instead, Thomas and his team moved through the ship like ghosts. They used the environment, turned the Krell's own weapons against them, and rescued every hostage without a single casualty. When Krell soldiers surrendered, the humans gave them medical treatment and held them safely. The Krell Empire had never encountered an enemy that fought so fiercely but showed mercy to those who yielded. After 2 weeks of brutal fighting, the Krell withdrew. Their commander sent one final message. We do not understand you humans. You fight like demons but heal like angels. You are the strangest warriors we have ever faced. But the humans were not finished. While their military ships secured the borders, other human vessels arrived. Medical ships, engineering vessels, supply transports. Lieutenant Emma Blake coordinated massive evacuation efforts, helping refugees from the attacked worlds find new homes. Dr. Robert Green worked alongside council physicians, sharing human medical techniques that saved thousands of lives. Human engineers helped rebuild destroyed infrastructure, often working in conditions that other species found unbearable. Vexor found James on Earth a month after the conflict ended. They stood in a place humans called a park, surrounded by green plants and singing birds. The sounds of a peaceful world. Your world is beautiful, Vexor said. Terrifying but beautiful. James laughed, that strange human expression of joy. Terrifying? It is just Earth. Trees, grass, some birds. Pretty normal stuff. That is exactly what makes your species so remarkable, Vexor replied. You do not see how special you are. You think this planet is normal. You think your strength is average. You think everyone would do what you did, saving lives and protecting the helpless. But you are the only species to evolve intelligence on a death world. You survived conditions that would kill anyone else. And instead of becoming monsters, you became protectors. James was quiet for a moment, watching a small bird land on a nearby branch. We just did what needed to be done. Anyone would have helped. No, Vexor said gently. No, they would not have. That is what makes you special. You have the power to destroy but you choose to build. You have the strength to conquer but you choose to protect. The galaxy is lucky to have found you. The Galactic Council granted Earth full membership that year. Humanity became the Council's emergency response force, their special operations teams, and their protectors. But more than that, they became teachers. Humans shared their survival techniques, their adaptive strategies, and their never-give-up attitude with other species. Other Death World species were re-evaluated. Perhaps they were not threats but potential allies who had simply never been given a chance. Vexor's final log entry recorded on his retirement day read, I once froze in fear when a map labeled Earth a death world. I saw that designation and imagined monsters. Now I sleep soundly knowing the Deathworlders stand with us. They are dangerous, yes. More dangerous than any species we have ever encountered. But they are our dangerous friends. They are our protectors. They are proof that strength without compassion is tyranny, but strength with compassion is heroism. In this vast and uncertain galaxy, there is no one I would rather have at my side than a human. The map designation remained. Class 12 Deathworld. But now, beside that warning, there was a new notation: home to humanity. Our strongest allies. Our bravest friends.